Awesome. So you guys already have the background. So as a real estate agent, you're running this business. Many of you may not know this. I didn't. They're all 1099 contractors. They all work off of commission exclusively. They change brokerage every 2 years, and they work primarily by relationship. In fact, that's one of the fascinating things about this space and why it's been considered a niche, even though it's the biggest asset class in the U.S. $70 billion of commissions. When Uber went out and started, they were going after a $4.4 billion taxi market. We're talking about $70 billion that are paid to agents every year. And all the technology has been focused on generating leads for those agents, which means finding cold new people. Maybe if you're moving to the area, you clicked on someone on Zillow and that went out to 4 agents. But 70% of transactions, and this may have been as you're thinking about how you connect with your agent, came through relationship. They came through somebody recommending it, you talking to your neighbor, your friend, etc. The problem with that is as you become more successful as a real estate agent, you have hundreds of past clients, you just can't manage thousands of relationships. So the top agents end up with thousands of relationships, less and less time as they become more successful, and a 7 to 10 year funnel. So the other problem is that CRMs and the tools are built aren't really focused on relationship management. So maybe you have received a magnet or a pumpkin or a newsletter. Realtors are people. They are not marketers. So as we've looked at all the different aspects of ways that people reach out to you, and you've received these postcards in your mail, it just doesn't move the needle, again, back to the 70% mark. The interesting thing is now when you power this, we flip this around with AI, where we now are tracking thousands of factors about all of you and 214 million other individuals across the U.S. We actually have a pretty good idea when people are going to move. And so we can flip that story around to where instead of, as a real estate agent, going around meeting with 20 people to talk to one who's going to move this year, I can actually put you in front of 20 people where every fifth person is going to sell their house. And I can not only do that, I can actually time it so that you're connected with them 6 to 9 months before they think about listing, so that they don't talk to their friend or their neighbor, etc. So you can leverage that relationship. So this is, in my view, a fundamentally different type of software. You're not signing up for a CRM to then input data to then figure out what type of marketing. You're leveraging a platform that knows how much my home is worth. It knows that I have 2 kids that are 4 and 2. It knows that we are expecting our 3rd kid. And the fact that it knows all of that and what my income is, we now can know that you are 5 times as likely as the national average to move as opposed to 2 times as likely. Not only that, but every time I play this Tinder app for real estate, flipping through my relationships, and it's telling me this person's going to list, I say, no, I don't really want to get lunch with this person. I don't really want to connect. It's learning. It's learning about your relationships, and it's going through all your emails that you've sent. So if it sounds creepy, it kind of is. Welcome to the new world of technology. But the interesting thing is, again, we're focused on one vertical. So every 1,000 realtors we get on this platform, it learns about how you're leveraging those relationships, how you should be connecting with that 55-year-old downsizer differently from someone who's selling their first house. So it becomes a very, very simple tool instead of a CRM that you have to sit in front of and figure out how to become a marketer that I can sync all my contacts to. It's tracking thousands of factors about them all the time. I can leverage that intelligence. It's always telling me and prompting me to act. And then I can just go connect. So one of our early customers was sitting in front of his computer a couple months in. I said, how's it going? He said, well, I'm trying to figure out what emails to send. I said, well, what do you normally do? I go get coffee with people. So we took the 20 most likely people that we're going to list, said, why don't we set up coffee dates? And out of those 20, 5 of them ended up listing with him. Statistically, there would have been 1, maybe 1 within that. Again, why is this fundamentally different? You're paying $450 a month for a SaaS product that's able to generate, again, for these independent contractors, $17,000 to $30,000. We have some that made $50,000 or $70,000 off of our product, and it's driving their behavior. So the other thing is there are 1.2 million licensed realtors, and we're just focusing on the top 20%. Every 1% of them we sign up is a $14 million in recurring revenue. We built out the platform, data science and engineers primarily first. We hired our sales team in May. We've been growing pretty aggressively, 20% month over month since then. We'll cross $1 million in recurring revenue. We have a clear path to the next $5 million over the next 18 months, raising Series A to get there right now. The other interesting thing as you think about thousands of agents using this tool to, for the first time, manage their relationships, not send blast marketing, is we're building up a data set where they have validated when people are moving, what those relationships look like. And that becomes a really interesting data set. I had a call with the CMO of Lowe's talking about how they spend $12 million on pre-mover data, which is when a listing has already gone up. Well, now we can validate realtor-validated data of who is actually thinking about moving, and deliver that to the home services market, which is another $130 billion on top of the $70 billion of commission. So we've been fortunate to have a great team. VP of Engineering from Living Social, who scaled that to 110 million users, and great sales leadership from Channel Advisor and Citrix. And we're going out for our Series A right now, raising $4 million. Going to grow this to become the next big SaaS company in the Triangle, and ultimately, we're going after the biggest chunk of real estate, and we believe that we can direct the most real estate transactions, more than Zillow, because they're directing a small fraction of that 20%. We can actually help direct a large portion of the 80% of transactions that happen in real estate. That's us.
So I'm wondering, the talking to your friends, talking to your neighbors part is a fairly important thing for most people, because that's a big transaction in most people's lives. What data do you have thus far around people's willingness to farm that out to big data?
It's a good question. I think that was one of our earliest questions. Would you give us your relational data? Some of our early users said, "Could I give you my sign into Facebook so that you can leverage that?" I think that one of the pain is so high. They know that they're missing so many deals. One of the things I didn't talk about is that these top agents are missing 70 to 80 deals from people they already know. So they realize that they just don't have enough time. So they would love to hand it off to some form of assistant or something that's going to tell them where they should direct their relational efforts. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of hesitation. We are very clear about what we will and won't use about their data. But overall, that hasn't been a huge hurdle.
I guess I have a question about so identifying 20 people out of 100 that would likely fit the profile of people that are going to move. I'm really curious as to what that introduction point looks like. Hey, I've been tracking you on the internet. Congratulations on the kid.
Yeah.
What kid? The one that's you don't know yet. I mean, it can get really weird for you. But I'm just, what's the point of entry for that realtor into that customer?
It's a good question. And one of our real estate agents says, if you're going to jump into the pool, you might as well jump into the warmest end instead of the coldest end. And that's the difference between buying leads, which are by definition cold, or just starting with relationship. And so what we found is that relationship is just a great channel. That's all it is. It's just a channel. We're not saying that this is a relationship building tool. But generally, it's just them connecting at the right time. It is interesting, though, in terms of I had one of our agents call us up and say, "Hey, you guys predicted another divorce, right? They haven't even announced it yet, but I'm reaching out." So we don't recommend that. Hey, heard about your divorce? Maybe you're thinking about selling. Not best practice, but it's that simple. It's I happen to connect with this real estate agent at the right time. I know 4 real estate agents, but since that person connected with me on a personal level, I'm going with them.
Sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to. So I guess the next logical would be to target ads against folks like that based on
Sure.
Rather than using personal data, again, this just kind of comes back into the retargeting and the Facebook targeting and social.
Yep. So we actually started with that. If you talked to me 11 months ago, I was talking about how we're integrating this into all the different platforms so that we could drive all of their marketing to more efficiently target people who are moving. There's 2 problems with that. One is broad marketing channels, you should just market to everyone anyway. It's about awareness. And the other is that we found that those things just don't move the needle. A better newsletter, a better postcard, there's such low conversion. The highest conversion thing is their time, and it's the hardest to optimize.
Yeah, so that's what I guess the question is, leveraging those social media targeted buys with time.
Yeah.
So you're seeing that ad exactly at the 6-month mark.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're just focused on their highest value, because oftentimes they're making $200,000, and so their time is valuable. We're trying to help optimize that.
So my question goes back more towards: is this a platform play versus really a true SaaS? Because I come from the CRM space as well, and where the CRM space is going now is, I know Jerry, and Jerry's my friend, and Jerry probably would likely benefit from going to this event. So the CRM space is really adopting this heavily. So in doing so, Salesforce and others have gotten really big because they've been able to say, well, all of the other competitors really aren't competitors. They're a plug-in now feeding me data. So how do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that most CRMs are too complicated for real estate agents. So real estate agents are individual sales reps, and so they just want something that tells them what to do. Our biggest competitor isn't other CRMs; it's coaches. Agents will say, "Well, $450 a month," and they'll go spend $2,000 a month on a coach that'll tell them what to do in terms of calls they need to make. So I don't see that as a big risk. I think the other part of your question is, where is the whole space heading with CRM? And to that point, this whole relational trend is not just real estate. I looked Marketo's website, biggest marketing automation platform on the planet, 3 months ago said, "Stop marketing, start connecting." They're not saying stop marketing. They're just saying the whole point of marketing is get down to that individual relationship. All we're saying is you already have the relationships. If you just knew where to devote that relational energy, you could go straight to the transaction.
And maybe this is, there we go. So I guess this would be less of changing habits, right, and crossing the chasm, if you will, of a paradigm shift to an industry, and more of, hey, do what you're doing daily now in social media and all these other channels. Just rechannel it to your work.
That's right, and focus on the right people, and that's where we're seeing agents winning 3, 4, 5 additional listings right off the bat just by focusing on the right people. Yep. The other part of the CRM point is that by going all the way down to the workflow, I do think 3 years from now, if you ask a real estate agent what they use for their CRM, they'll say, "Oh yeah, somebody on my team does something with newsletters, but I just focus on connecting with people." Yeah, it's better than a CRM. It's just interacting with you. Cool. Thanks, Mike.
Who here is an investor in